Hello sir, my name is Jumel Perez Lakad from BES IT3B. So we're going to do is create a PowerPoint presentation explaining the assessments. So midterm paperworks contains the assessment on assessment 2, assessment 3, and assessment 4. So assessment 1, number 1, um, why is form handling and validation important in web development, particularly in terms of data integrity and security? So the form handling and validation are essential in web development for several reasons. Reasons related to data integrity and security. So data integrity validation ensures that user inputs conform to expected formats and requirements, preventing incorrect or incomplete data from being processed. This is crucial for maintaining accurate records and preventing operational errors. And security, property validation protect against various attacks such as SQL injection and cross-site scripting or XSS by ensuring that once safe validated data is processed by the server. This reduces the risk of malicious user exploiting vulnerabilities in the form handling process. And user experience, effective validation provides immediately feedback to user, helping them correct errors before submission, which enhance usability and reduce frustration. Number 2, what are some key Laravel features that help preventing security vulnerabilities such as SQL injection and cross-site request forger or CSRF when handling form data? Laravel offers several key features to prevent security vulnerabilities, particularly against SQL injection and cross-site request forger or CSRF. CSRF protection, Laravel automatically generates CSRF tokens for formals, ensuring that each request is verified against a valid token stored in the user sessions. This prevents unauthorized requests from being processed. Number 3, explaining how you could create a basic form in Laravel using a blade template and handler its submission in controller. So to create a basic form in Laravel using blade template and handle its submission in a control. Follow this step. First is creating the blade in resources view and create a file name form blade http and copy this code form action, and then second step is define routes in routes web.php, define the routes for form submission, and then copy the link for routers. Create 3 is create the route controller, generate a controller using artisan. PHP artisan make controller form controller. And HTTP controller form controller.php handle the form submission and define validation rules, and then copy this code. Number 4, how can customizing validation error um, messaging improve the user experience in a web application? Customizing validation error messaging significant enhance user experience in web application by providing clearer, more context appropriate feedback. This help user understand what went wrong and how to correct their inputs, reducing frustration and improving overall usability. For example, in a Laravel Blade template, you can customize and display validation error message as follows. First is customized error messaging. Input your control define custom message when validating data, and then copy this code PHP, and then step 2 is display error message in Blade. In your Blade template, display the error text. Number 5, so what are the benefits of centralizing validation logic in Laravel applications, and how does this contribute to the maintainability of a web application? Centralizing validation logic in Laravel applications offers several benefits that contribute to maintainability. One is code cleanliness. By using form requests classes, developers can encapsulate validation rules in a single location rather than scattering them throughout controllers. This promotes a cleaner code base and adheres to the dry don't repeat yourself principle. Make it easier to manage and update validation rules across the application. Number 2 is improved readability. Centralized validation make it easier for developers to understand the validation logic at glance. This enhances collaboration among team members as they can quickly locate and comprehend how data is validated without sifting through multiple files. Number 3 is easier maintaining challenge. Two validation rules can be made in one place, reducing the risk of inconsistencies and errors. If a rule needs to be updated, developers only need to modify it in the form request class, ensuring that all related functionality remains intact. Number 4, enhanced security. Centralized validation helps ensure that all user input are consistently validated, minimizing the risk of security vulnerabilities such as SQL injection or XSS attacks. So, assessment 2, number 1. What is the role of middleware in Laravel? Laravel's authentication system, and how does it help protect routes and resources from unauthorized access? So middleware is Laravel authentication system plays a crucial role in protecting routes and resources from unauthorized access. It acts filtering mechanism that intercept HTTP requests before they reach the intended controller or route. Authentication check. The middleware check whether a user is authenticated if the user is not logged in. The middleware redirect them to the login page, preventing access to protect routes. Number 3 is centralizing logic. By using middleware, developers can centralize authentication logic, make it easier to manage and apply consistency across different routes. This ensures that all protected routes now enforce the same middleware, same authentication rules. Number two, so how does Laravel built-in authentication system and handle user registration and login, include the management of session tokens and the validation of input data. So Laravel built-in authentication system efficiently handles user registration and login through several key components, ensuring security management of session token and input data validation. User registration: when a user register, their credential, email, and password are validated using form request password, are securely hashed using algorithms like bcrypt or argons 2 before being stored in the database, ensuring sensitive information is protected. User login: during login, the system verifies user credentials against the store hash password. If the credential match, Laravel create a session for the user, storing a unique session token in a cookie to maintain login state. Session management: Laravel utilize session store to track authenticated user. The session guard manage this process, allowing for seamless user experience across requests while maintaining security. So number three, explain the importance of security measures like SQL injection prevention and XSS protection in login and registration form. How does Laravel assist in preventing these vulnerabilities? The importance of security measures like SQL injection prevention and XSS protection in login and registration form cannot be overstated. These vulnerabilities can lead to unauthorized access, data breaches, and compromise user accounts. Importance of security measures: first is SQL injection prevention. SQL injection allows attacker to manipulate database queries by injecting malicious SQL code through user inputs. This can lead to unauthorized data access, data modification, or even complete database compromise. For example, an attacker might input a crafted username and alter the SQL query to bypass authentication. 2. XSS protection. Cross-site scripting or XSS enables attackers to inject malicious script into web page viewed by other users. This can lead to session hijacking, defacement of websites, or redirection to malicious site. How Laravel assists in preventing vulnerabilities. Illocate QRM, Laravel Illocate QRM, IORM, automatically use prepared statement for database queries, which help preventing SQL injection by treating user input as data rather than executable code. This means that even if attacker tries to inject SQL code, it will be treated as a string and not executed. 2. Input validation. Laravel provides robust validations mechanism that allow you developers to define rule for user inputs. By validating inputs before processing them, Laravel ensures that only properly formatted formatted data is accepted, reducing the risk of SQL injection and XSS. Number three, automatic XML escaping. The Blade template engine automatically escape output, which protects against XSS by ensuring that any user generate content is rendered safely in the browser. 4 is CSRF protection. Laravel includes CSRF protection out of the box from form, preventing unauthorized requests from being submitted on behalf of authenticated user. Number 4. Um, how would you create and apply custom middleware in Laravel to restrict access route based on user roles such as admin only route? To create and apply custom middleware in Laravel to restrict access to specific routes based on user roles such as admin only route. Create user create middleware. Use the artisan command to create a middleware. PHP artisan make middleware admin middleware. Number 5, in terms of scalability, how can Laravel authentication system be adapted to handle a growing number of users and requests? Give me example like session management or token based authentication. To adapt Laravel authentication system for scalability in handling a growing number of users and requests, several strategies can be implemented, particularly focusing on session management and token based authentication. Number 1 is stateless authentication with tokens. Using token based authentication, UWT or Laravel Subtum allows the application to be stated. This means that user sessions are not stored on the server, which simplifies scaling because any server can handle requests without needed to access session data store. On a specific server, this approach is particularly useful in distributed systems where load balancer direct traffic to multiple servers. Number 2, centralization management. For application requires session management using a centralized session store like Redis or Mekach can enhance scalability by storing session data in a shared caches. All application server can access user session without being tied to specific instance. 3 is loading balancing. Implementing a load balancer help distribute incoming requests evenly across multiple server instances. This ensures that no single server become a bottleneck as user traffic increases. Load balancing works effectively with token-based authentication since sessions do not need to persist on any particular server. 4 is caching strategies. Leveraging Laravel's built-in caching mechanism can significantly improve performance by reducing database load. Frequently access such as user role and permissions can be catches, allowing quick retrieval without hitting the database every time. 5 is job quiz for background processing. Using Laravel's job quiz allows time-consuming tasks like sending email after registration to be processed in the background. This reduces the load on the web. So, assessment 3, number 1. What are the key steps involved in implementing the create operation in Laravel, and how do blade view and form handling play a role in process? Implementing the create operation in Laravel involves several key steps that integrated blade view and form handling. Here's a concise overview. Key step is implementing create operational. Number 1 is set up migration. Create migration for the database using artisan. Define the table structure in the migration field and run. 2 is create model. 3 is create controller, generate a resource controller to handle CRUD application. 4 is define routes in routes web.php. Add resources routes for the controller. 5 is create blade view. Create a blade template. Role of blade view and form handling. Blade view, they provide a clean and simple way to create HTML form, allowing for easy integration of dynamic data and CSRF protection. Form handling. Laravel's request validation ensure that one valid data is processed. The store method handles input validation, creates new records, and manage redirection with success messages. To explain the importance of data validation and sanitation in CRUD operation. How does Laravel ensure security when handling user input during this operation? Data validation and sanitation are critical components of CRUD. Create, read, update, delete operation in web application. They ensure that user input is safe, accurate, and appropriate for processing, which is essential for maintaining the integrity and security of the application. Important of data validation and sanitation. First is security. Proper validation and sanitation prevent common vulnerabilities. 2 is data integrity. Validation ensure that one valid data is processed or stored. 3 is user experience. Immediate feedback on valid input enhance user experience by guiding user to correct mistake before submission. Number 3, here's some implementation. Read Laravel to retrieve any display data from database, focusing on the process without code. Step by implementation. Create a controller. Use Laravel artisan command to generate a controller that will handle the logic for reading data. This controller will contains method responsible for fetching data from database. Two is define the read method. In the controller, create a method of the name index that retrieves the necessary data from the database. So 3 is pass data to the view. After retrieving the data, pass it to the blade view. This is done using Laravel's view rendering capabilities, which allow you to send data from the controller to the view seamlessly. Define routes. In your routes file, define a route that maps a URL product to the controller method. You create. This route will handle incoming requests and direct them to your read operation. 5 is create a blade view. Create a blade view template that will be responsible for displaying the retrieved data. In this view, you can look through the data processed from the controller and format it for presentation. 6 is display data within the blade view. Check if they are in record available. If they are, iterate through them at display each records relevant details. If no records are found, provide a message indicating that no data is available. Number 4, what is the purpose of update operation in Laravel and how would you handle form submission to modify existing data in entries in the database? The purpose of the update operation in Laravel is to modify existing data entries in the database. This operation is essential for maintaining accurate and up-to-date information within an application, allowing user to edit records as needed. Handling form submission and update operation. Data retrieve. The update operation typically begins by retrieving the existing record that the database using its unique identifier. Input validation. Upon form submission, Laravel validates the incoming data to ensure it meets specified criteria. Updating the record. If validation passes, Laravel updates the record in the database with the new values provided by the user. 5. How can you ensure that the deleted operation in Laravel is secure and prevent accidentally or unauthorized data removal? What role does validation play in this process? To ensure that the deleted operation in Laravel is secure and preventing accidental or unauthorized data removal, several best practices can be implemented. First is authorization checks. Implementing authorization check to verify that the user has permission to delete the specific resources. This can be done using Laravel's built-in authorization feature such as policies or gates, ensuring that only authorized user can perform delete actions. 2 is confirmation prompts. Use validation prompts, JavaScript alert or model dialogues before executing a deleted operation. This helps prevent accidental deletion by requiring user to confirm their intention to delete a record. 3. Soft deletes. Utilizing Laravel's soft delete feature, which allow records to be deleted without being permanently removed from the database instead of timestamps is set on the deleted at column, make it possible to store the record later if needed. 4 is validation of input. Although all, all true validation is typically associated by create and update operation, it can also play a role in delete operation. For example, validating that the resource exists being attempting to delete it can help avoid error and ensure that only valid requests are processed. 5 is logging action. Implementing logging for delete action to maintain an audit trail. This allow you to track who deleted what and when, providing accountability. So last is assessment for number 1, what is the purpose of Google reCAPTCHA and how does it enhance the security of web application when integrated with forms? Google reCAPTCHA serve as a security measure designed to different differentiate between human user and automated bots, enhancing the security of web application, particularly in forms. So, bot prevention, reCAPTCHA effectively block automated software for submitting form, spamming comments, or accessing sensitive resources. By doing so, it helps protect website from abuse and fraudulent activities such as unauthorized account creation or data scrapping. User-friendly challenges. The system is designed to present challenges that are easy for humans to solve but difficult for bots. This includes simple tasks like checking a box or identifying image, which minimize user friction while maintaining security. 3 is adaptive risk analysis. With versions like reCAPTCHA v3, the system employs advanced risk analysis without interrupting the user experience. It assigns a score to interaction based on behavior, allowing developers to implement additional security measures. Continuous improvement. As users engage with reCAPTCHA, their interaction contribute to machine learning dataset that enhance the system ability to identify legitimate user versus bot over time. Integration with sensitive operation. reCAPTCHA is increasing use in high stakes scenarios such as paying verification, where ensuring that transactions are initiated by real users is critical for preventing fraud. 2 is describing the process of obtaining and registering reCAPTCHA site and secret keys from Google. Why is it important to update the domain when moving from local host to the production environment? First is sign in the Google account, being by signing into Google account. Access reCAPTCHA admin console. 2 is registering a new site. Click the plus register a new site button, including the information, a label for your site for identification, the type of reCAPTCHA you want to use, the domain where you plan to use reCAPTCHA. T is accept term and submit. Agree to the terms and service and click the submit button. After submission, Google will generate a site key and secret key for your registered domain. Number 3, how would you integrate reCAPTCHA into Laravel form? First is to install the reCAPTCHA package and get a reCAPTCHA key. 3, and configure reCAPTCHA in Laravel. And then added reCAPTCHA to the form. And then validate reCAPTCHA in controller. 6 is handle form submission. Explain how to validate reCAPTCHA responses in Laravel. What role do the reCAPTCHA secret key plays in this validation process? So to validate reCAPTCHA responses in the Laravel, you need to follow these basic steps. First is user submit the form, and then form validation in Laravel controller, and then send the response to Google reCAPTCHA API. For this handle Google response, Google will return a success or failure status after validating the response. Number 5, how can customizing error message for failed reCAPTCHA attempts improve user experience? Customizing error message for validate reCAPTCHA attempt can significantly improve the user experience by making the process clear and more user friendly. Instead of displaying a generic error message like invalid reCAPTCHA or a technical error, you can provide more specific guide to the user, helping them understand what went wrong and what action to take user. First is clear instruction. User know exactly what went wrong and can correct it. 2 is improve engagement. Users are less likely to get frustrated when with vague errors. 3 is encouragement for action. Clear instruction on what needs to be done. There's complete the reCAPTCHA or click the box to verify you are not a robot. Bonding and consistency. Customer message can be styled to match your website tone and brand, making the form submission process feel more professional. And then that's all, sir. Thank you.